Hello there, my beautiful people. So today we are going to build this beautiful login web design. And as you can see, this once you focus on the input, the label gets raised up so that you can write any type of username, and for the password the same story. And once you delete this input, everything goes back to normal. And as you can see, you got this beautiful responsive submit button, and once you hover on it, it turns out to be a like button, whatever you might call it, a touch or a like button or a bulb. Okay, and so we're going to build this using CSS and HTML only. So to start our project, let's code this. I'm gonna delete this previous file, and let us create the new file, and let us call it login. Oops, I don't like capital letters. And let us open this folder with our text editor, and inside our text editor we want to create two files. And the first one is index.html, and the second file is style.css. And once you're done, open your index file, your HTML file, and let us create a doc type HTML. And you want to type doc and then enter, and this is going to create our basic document element. And inside this, let us write a login page, and inside our body, and we are done about the basics. And let us link to our style. Let's start my live server so that once we make a change, we're gonna see that live from our browser. And let us go back to our text editor, and then create a div known as login box. And inside this login box, I want to type the h2 element, which is login. And then I wanna create a form. Right now we don't need this action because we're only styling. We are not posting any kind of data to our web server. And inside this form element, we want to create the other div, which is user box. This is the type of box. This is for the first box we want to type input, because we are in the form. And for the input type we want to be text, and for the name of our input we want to leave it blank, and for the required we want to leave it also blank. And we want to write the label. And our label, let us set our label to be username, and we want to create the other div which looks the same, which is going to be this user box. And the reason we are making these divs to be the same because we want it to be easy to style them together. And for the input, this is going to be password, input password. Let us remove this ID, and let's just set required. And for the label, you know what's the label here. Our label will be password. Let's capitalize the first letter. So now we're done. No, one thing remaining, we haven't just added our button here. And let us create it. We want to create a H element. We don't link it to anywhere, and we want to create this 4 spans. This is the first, the second, third, and the fourth. And while we are creating these 4 spans, I'm gonna take a time to explain this later on, but let us create a submit button here. down here, and as you can see, we got this login page, we got this submit button. But now I think we are ready about the HTML part. Now let's open our styles.css and let us split this so that we can make it easier to work with this. And let me close this sidebar. Let me close this also. So to begin with, let us start with our HTML element. Let us start with styling our basic HTML page. And for the HTML, I want to set the height to be 100%. And I'm done about the HTML. Let me go to the body. I want to remove all the default margin. Oops. Let me set it to 0. I want to remove also the padding to 0. I want to set the font family big sans serif. And the thing that's remaining here is to set the background. And let me set it because I want it to be two colors. I want the other color to the left and the other color to the right. So to do that, we apply the background property, and then we pass the linear gradient. And inside this, I want to add two colors, one to the left and one to the right. So to do that, I'm just going to type my color here, 1E30, and this color is going to be to the left and to the right. I want to add this color, 24 3B 5050. And when we go to our basic page, you can see we got this, and it's quite difficult to see, but we got two different colors in the left and in the right. And to proceed there, I'm just gonna go down here. I think I'm done about the body, and if I'm missing something, we'll come back to that again. So let us go to the other div, to our classes inside the body, and let's go to login box. We want our login box to be on the center of our page. We want this login box to be on the center of our page, and to do that, we set our top to be 50% of the total web page, and our left to be 50%, and that won't work. And when we go to our web browser, nothing has changed because our default HTML styling is set to static. For position is set to static on default, so we have to declare the position. On top of that, the position to absolute, and that you can see our logins down below, but we don't want it to be here. We want it to be on the center of our page, and to do that, we declare the element known as transform and translate. And to translate the to x-axis, we declare negative 50%, and to translate to y-axis, we declare also negative 50%. And when we go back, it's on the center of our body. And let's proceed more. We want to set the color of this so that it can be distinguished to our body. We need to be distinguished from our body. So to set the color, I'm just gonna set the color. What kind of color? I want it to be black background. I want it to be RGBA, and I'm gonna set 0 here, 0 here, 0 also. And for the alpha, I want to set 0.6. Yep, 0.6. And when we go back, you can see it already distinguishes itself from the body. And let me proceed further. Let me proceed to the padding. I want to set 40 pixels. For the border radius, I want it to have right border radius. As you can see, it looks way better now. And you can go here and now we want to set the box shadow. We want to have the box shadow, and it's gonna be RGBA. We just want to reduce this by 0.1 of this alpha, and once we do that, oh, I'm sorry, this has to be 0.6 and this 0.5. And for the box shadow, I forgot to add some properties here, and which is gonna be 0, 15 pixels and 25 pixels. That's why I want my border to be. And when we go back, you can see it has the border and it has this box shadow all over this div. Now let us proceed more further, and let us move to, I think we're done about this, and let us move to this H2 element. And to do that, let's set the color to be white, pure white. And for the text align, I want this text to be aligned on the center. And as you can see, this text is already on the center. And set the margin to be 0, 0, 30 pixels. And for the padding, I want to set the padding to 0. Once I'm down there, you can see the login form, the login button, the login header looks way better now. Let us proceed to the other element, which is the user box. Okay, let's declare a class here, user box, and inside this I want to set the position to relative. I want to set the position relative to this absolute position. And then now let me move to this user box input text. So to do that, let me just, so this is what we got until now. And inside this class, I want to add the width and set it to 100%. This is gonna set the width of our input. This is gonna set the width of our input to 100 of the parent class. So I want to add the color. Let me set it to white. And for the background, I want it to be transparent. I don't want to see those white background, but there is a default border here, and I want to remove it. And we can remove it by setting the property border none. And when we go here, we can see we have no border, but that's not what we want. We want to have this one line and the second line for filling out our inputs. And to do that, I want to add border button, and I want to set it to 2 pixels, solid white. And as you can see, we have this, but still when you focus on this, we got this default border that gets applied. So to remove also that, we want to set outline to none. We don't want nothing to get displayed by default. And as you can see, we have, it looks way better now. And now we can proceed by adding our font size, and let us set it to 16 pixels. But also we want to set the padding, and let's make it 10 pixels, 0 pixels, and it looks way better now. And let us proceed But also I want these inputs to get a little bit of spacing here on the bottom and on the top. So to do that, I'm just gonna say margin bottom equals to 30 pixels, and as you can see the form looks way better now. So let's move on to the next thing, which is we're done on the input here. Let us move to our label. Yep, let's move to our label. So to be more specific, I'm just gonna say user box. Let's go user box with defined element and label. And on this label, I'm just gonna say position absolute, because I want it to be on the absolute position where it is supposed to be. And as you can see, it were on the bottom and now it's on the place where it is supposed to be, but still there's a work to do. Left, we want to get it back to the left. I want to set 0, and for the top we want to set it to 0. And as you can see, the username and password inputs are on top of on this input places. And the other thing that we want to do is to set the padding, and I want to set it to 10 pixels, 0 pixels. And for color, I want to set it to be white. I want them to be white. When we go back, you can see we now have these inputs. And to proceed more, I want to add pointer events. I want to add pointer events to be none, and I want to add transition just in case we will we'll do some transformation in this input. So that I want the transition to take about 0.5 seconds. So as you can see, looks way better now, but still there's a work to do. When we type something, it gets overlapped with the label. So that's what we are going to do next here. And the other thing that we want to do here, so now let's set the margin tab. It be 40 pixels, and for the position I want to set it to relative. But also I want to set the transition just in case we hover over this element. I want it to be 0.5 seconds. The other thing that I want is for display, I want it to be inline block. And let's check it out. And as you can see, it looks way better. So now the thing that we have to do next, once we are done about this box, is to create this glowing button. Once we have this, we want to create the light button, and to do that we go down here and we do login box a dot hover. So once we hover on this element, we want to set the background to be want to set the background color to be this color. Let me copy this. I'm gonna paste it in here. So once we have this, we're gonna get that color, but also want the color for text to be white. The other thing that we want is that we want to be our border radius to be 5 pixels. So once we have on this element, we get this button, but that's not what we want. We want it to provide light, so we can go to, so this is the part that I want you to pay a close attention to that. And we go to box shadow and we set the X, the position X, and the Y, and the offset set Y to 0. And for the blur, we want to set 5 pixels in our color. We then leave a comma And once we've done that, you can go here, look at that. Once we hover, you can see the large effect, but our button starts to provide some light, but you can't see because the blur radius is so small. We set it to 5 pixels, but also we need to add another shadow. And to do that, say 25 pixels. Our color, this is the second shadow. But when we go, you can see it starts to provide some light. It starts to glow, and we add another shadow, 50 pixels. Our color, and once we're done that, oops, let me remove the comma so as to show you our button glows a lot more. And we wanted to set the last shadow, which is going to be a huge one, and our color. And once we're down there, you can see our button glows, provides some light. And I think we're done about that. And let us move on to the last part, to animate this button. And to do that, that's when this span part comes into place. As I said, I will explain it later on in this video, and this is the final part. So to start that, we can set to login, we'll go to login box A, but also the span, and beside this I want to set the position to be absolute, but also for the display to be in line. Oh, to be the block, I want our display to be the block, and nothing will change. That can be seen here. You won't not notice any change, but here, there we go, to start making more changes. And we're going to start with the first span of our list. And to do that, go A span, we'll set the nth child. We want to select the first child, which is the first element among all these span elements. For this first child, we want to give it the property. We want to set it the top to be 0, but also we want to give him the width 100%, but also we wanted its height to be 2 pixels, but also for the background we want it to be linear gradient, and inside this linear gradient I want to set the 9 deg and transparent. And the last thing that I want to add is our color. And for the animation part, I want you to pay close attention to this. I want to set the property animation, and inside this I want to add the button animation 1, and linear. I want to add linear infinite. So you probably are wondering, what is this? We haven't created this keyframe, so we are going to create it. This is like, and to do that I'm gonna just declare keyframe, and for the identifier I want to add this button anim. So this keyframe is like a animation function. It's like the function where you define what type of animation, and then you include that inside your span. On this animation property, you add this keyframe. So once our animation is on the 0%, we want our left to be negative 100%, and once it reaches 50% or 100%, we want our left property about this span to be 100%. And let's go here, and as you can see, we have this small line here. It hasn't already, and it doesn't get animated already, so there's a lot of things to change here. And one thing that I forgot that's making this button not to work is that I've forgotten to add the time, which is equals to 1 second. It now works, but not quite the way we want it. We want it to work from here all the way up to the end of this button, but it starts from nowhere and it ends up from nowhere. That's not what we want. So to do that, I'm just gonna set the left to be negative 100%, but also this tool won't change, and as you can see we have this. So to make our major move to get rid of this problem, I'm just gonna go all the way up to login box dot a. Also, to get the wider form, don't forget to add the width here and set it to 400 pixels. So we want the top of our second child to be equals to negative 100%, but also for the right we want it to be 0, because this second child is going to be on the right. But also for the width we want it to be 2 pixels. For the height we want it to be 100 of the black element of the black height. I mean, for the A element we want this to be the height of the total A element. And for the background, the same story. Let's copy this. Except that instead of 90 here, we want it to be what? 180. We add by 90, and that's gonna be our angle. And then for animation, we want it to be button animation to 1 second, linear, infinite. We want it to run to infinite. We don't want it to stop. Now we need to add extra property that wasn't added in the first child, and that is animation delay. We want our animation delay to be 0.25 seconds. And once we're done there, we have to create the keyframe for this button animations too. And keyframes, want to create button animation 2. When the animation is at the 0%, we want our tabs to be negative 100%, but when it reaches 50% or 100%, we want our tab to be 100. Want our tab to be 100. Let's go check it out. And as you can see, we now have the two-sided button, two-sided animation for the button. We now need to add for the third child, and we want to finish it to the left. And to do that, we go to a span and child, the third child. And to do that, since our third animation is going to be located to the bottom, the first thing that we want to do is for the bottom property to be 0, but also for the right to be negative 100%, because the animation is going to start we want the right to be 0. We want it to but also for the width 100%, because it's gonna play by the width from here all the way to here. And about the height of the line will be 2 pixels. And for the background, let's copy this, paste it inside here, and instead of 180, place 270. We add this by 90. And for the color, it's the same. For the animation, guess what's gonna be used here is button, animation 3, 1 second, linear to the infinite. But also the keyframe button 3 is not yet created, so we're going to create here keyframes identify, and then I want to place it here. And while the animation is on 0%, I want the right to be negative 100%, because our animation is going to start from right all the way to left, and when it reaches 50% and 100% and 100%, whatever, I want the right to be 100%. Let's go to check it out. And as you can see, we got the 3 sides. One side that's remaining, you know, that's the left side. And let's finish it up. Let's go to a span. For fourth chart, I'm just gonna add bottom to be equals to negative 100%, because this animation is gonna start from the bottom all the way to up. This button is gonna start from here all the way up to here. So to make, I'm gonna set the default bottom to negative 100, but also I'm just gonna set the left, because it's gonna be on the left 0. About the width 2 pixels. About the height, I want to set the height to be 100. And about the background, I want it to be linear gradient. And let's copy the previous. Let's copy this. Then you want to paste it in here. Oops, I forgot to add the background. About the animation, I'm just gonna set button animation 3, animation 4, 1 second, linear, infinite. So one thing remaining is animation delay, because I want it to be delayed among all the animations. So to do that, I'm just going to set animation delay to 0.75 seconds. So still we don't have the keyframe for number 4. So to create that, I'm just going to go here and type keyframes. For the identifier, I'm going to paste the name, and when the animation is at 0%, I'm just going to set the button to negative 100%, because it's going to start from the bottom, and when it reaches 50%, 100%, I'm just going to set the button to be 100%. Let's check it out. And as you can see, it works now. Have these buttons all around. But there's one thing that we forgot to change. Instead of 180, we forgot that the previous one was 270. So we're just gonna set this 360 for it to work properly. And as you can see, it looks way better now. And all the buttons are animated. Beautiful. But and there you go. Everything is okay. Let's try this for one last time. The password. And everything looks fine as promised. And there you have it. You have this beautiful login page. And if you find this video helpful, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any video of this video series. Thank you and see you next time.